The scent of roses and gardenias clung to my fingertips as I sat alone in the corner of the grand ballroom, nursing a cup of rapidly cooling tea. Around me, Florence's elite swirled in designer gowns and tailored suits, their laughter echoing off marble columns adorned with the very flowers I'd spent the past 12 hours arranging. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd created the backdrop for their celebration, but remained utterly invisible to them. My worn black dress, the nicest thing in my closet, felt shabby compared to the silk and diamonds surrounding me. I should have left hours ago, once the ceremony ended and my work was done. But Signora Benedetti, the bride's mother, had insisted I stay for the reception. "You must eat something, Cara," she'd said, pressing a plate of delicate pastries into my hands. "You worked so hard." So here I sat, watching couples waltz beneath chandeliers that cost more than my tiny flower shop made in a year, trying not to feel like an intruder in this world of old money and older power. "Signorina." The voice was soft, cultured, unmistakably aristocratic. I looked up to find an elegant woman in her 60s standing before me, her silver hair swept into an immaculate chignon, pearls gleaming at her throat. Everything about her spoke of refinement, the cut of her burgundy gown, the way she held herself, the warmth in her dark eyes that somehow made me feel both seen and judged simultaneously. "Signora?" I stammered, starting to rise. My tea sloshed dangerously in its delicate cup. "Please, don't get up." She gestured gracefully, and I sank back into my chair, acutely aware of my calloused hands and the slight dirt under my nails that no amount of scrubbing had completely removed. "You're the florist, yes? Gabriella Romano?" "Yes, Signora. I hope everything was to your satisfaction." "It was perfection." She smiled, but there was something desperate lurking beneath the polished surface. "The arrangements were exquisite. You have remarkable talent." I flushed at the compliment. "Thank you. That's very kind." She glanced around the ballroom, her smile tightening almost imperceptibly. Then she leaned closer, and I caught the subtle scent of Chanel No. 5. "May I sit with you for a moment? I find myself in need of..." A quiet conversation. Confused but unable to refuse, I nodded. She settled into the chair beside me with the grace of a woman accustomed to commanding rooms. Yet there was a tremor in her hands as she folded them in her lap. "Forgive my directness, Signorina, but I have a rather unusual proposition for you." Her voice dropped lower, barely audible over the orchestra. One that may seem quite mad at first hearing. My heart began to race. In my experience, nothing good ever came from wealthy strangers making unusual propositions to poor girls at fancy parties. "I don't understand, Signora." "Montebello," she supplied. "Grazia Montebello." The name hit me like a physical blow. Montebello. Everyone in Sicily knew that name, even a nobody like me who spent her days elbow-deep in soil and petals. The Montebello family didn't just have influence, they were influence. Old money, old power, and according to whispered rumors, old connections to things people didn't discuss in polite company. "Signora Montebello," I breathed, suddenly understanding why she'd chosen the corner farthest from the other guests. "I'm honored, but I'm not sure what you could possibly want from me." "My son needs a fiancé." The words came out in a rush, desperate and raw. A fake one, just for a few weeks. A month at most. I know how this sounds. Truly I do. But I'm desperate, and you... Her eyes swept over me, assessing. "You're perfect." I stared at her, certain I'd misheard. "Your son?" "Giovanni, my eldest." She pulled a small photograph from her evening bag and pressed it into my hands before I could protest. The man in the photo stole my breath. He stood against a backdrop of rolling Tuscan hills, his tall frame clad in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit that emphasized broad shoulders and a lean, powerful build. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from Carrara marble, strong jaw, high cheekbones, straight nose that had perhaps been broken once and reset perfectly. But it was his eyes that held me captive. Even in the photograph, they were intense, penetrating, the color of espresso in shadow, promising danger and protection in equal measure. I swallowed hard, very handsome. He's trapped, Grazia said bluntly, in a business arrangement disguised as a betrothal. The Santoro family's daughter, Vittoria. It was arranged by our fathers years ago, meant to unite two powerful families. But Giovanni despises her. She's calculating, cold, interested only in the Montebello name and fortune. And her father, Lorenzo Santoro. Her voice hardened. He's using this arrangement to gain control over our business interests. I tried to hand back the photograph, but she closed my fingers around it. Signora, I don't see how I could possibly help with something like this. I'm just a florist. I have no connections, no family name, nothing that would... Exactly. Her grip on my hand tightened. That's precisely why this could work. Giovanni needs an excuse to break the engagement without insulting the Santoros publicly, without starting a war. If he were already engaged to someone else, someone he claimed to have fallen deeply in love with, it would be face-saving, a matter of the heart, not business. But surely there are women in your social circle who would want something in return, Grazia interrupted. Marriage to a Montebello comes with expectations, obligations. But you, Signorina, what would you want? Money? I can pay you handsomely. Enough to expand your flower shop, buy that building you rent, set yourself up comfortably. All for a few weeks of pretending. My mind reeled. The amount she named was staggering. More than I'd make in 5 years. It would change everything. No more worrying about rent, about suppliers demanding payment, about whether I could afford to fix the ancient refrigeration unit that kept my flowers fresh. But something didn't add up. Why me specifically? You could have chosen anyone. Grazia's smile was sad. Because you're genuine. I've been watching you tonight. The way you look at the flowers with such pride. The way you helped that server who spilled wine without a thought for your own dress. My son needs someone real in his life, even if only temporarily. Someone who won't try to sink their claws into him permanently. And your son has agreed to this plan? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Her pause told me everything. Giovanni doesn't know yet, but he'll see the wisdom in it once I explain. He wants out of the Santoro arrangement desperately enough to consider anything. This was insane. Absolutely insane. Pretending to be engaged to a man I'd never met. A man who moved in circles so far above mine they might as well be on a different planet. A man whose photograph alone made my pulse race and my palms sweat. I don't know how to act like I belong in your world, I admitted. I'll make mistakes. Embarrass you. You'll be yourself, Grazia said firmly. A beautiful, intelligent young woman my son fell in love with for her authenticity. We'll provide appropriate clothes, coaching on basic etiquette, but Giovanni would need to believe you're genuine, not manufactured. Your nervousness, your unfamiliarity with our world, it will all support the story of a whirlwind romance. A waiter passed close by, and we both fell silent until he'd moved on. Around us, the party continued, oblivious to the surreal negotiation happening in their midst. What if your son refuses? I asked quietly. What if he takes one look at me and laughs at the very idea? Something flickered in Grazia's eyes, knowledge, certainty. He won't. Trust me, Signorina. Giovanni has very specific tastes, and you. She smiled. You're exactly his type, even if he doesn't know it yet. I looked down at the photograph still clutched in my hands. Giovanni Montebello's intense gaze seemed to bore into me even through glossy paper, promising complications I couldn't begin to imagine. Every logical bone in my body screamed to refuse, to return to my simple life of flowers and quiet solitude. But then I thought of the shop, of my dreams of expansion, of never having to choose between paying rent and eating, of security for the first time in my adult life. If I agree, I said slowly, my heart hammering, I would need everything in writing. A contract specifying the duration, the payment terms. What happens if your son refuses the arrangement? Grazia's smile widened with something like respect. Naturally, my lawyer will have everything prepared by tomorrow. But I need your answer now, Signorina. The Santoro betrothal is being announced publicly in 3 days. We must move quickly. 3 days. 72 hours to transform from invisible florist to the supposed love of a Mafia prince's life. I took a deep breath, possibly the last rational one I'd take for a very long time. I'll do it. The lawyer's office smelled of old leather and expensive cigars, a masculine sanctuary that made me feel even more out of place than I had at the wedding. I'd spent the morning scrubbing dirt from under my fingernails and wrestling my unruly dark curls into something resembling elegance. But sitting across from Grazia Montebello's stern-faced attorney, I felt like an imposter. Everything is in order. Signorina Romano. Signor Ferretti slid a thick folder across the polished mahogany desk. The contract is quite straightforward. You will pose as Giovanni Montebello's fiancé for a period not to exceed 6 weeks. In exchange, you will receive the agreed-upon sum in 2 installments, half immediately, half upon successful conclusion of the arrangement. My hands trembled as I reached for the document. The numbers were staggering, even in cold legal print. This was real. I was actually doing this. And if Signor Montebello refuses to participate? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Then the contract is void, and you keep the first payment as compensation for your time and discretion. Ferretti's expression softened slightly. But I've known Giovanni since he was a boy, Signorina. If Signora Grazia believes this will work, it will work. She knows her son better than anyone. That's what worried me. Grazia's absolute certainty suggested she was manipulating both of us, though to what ultimate end I couldn't fathom. He's coming here today, Ferretti added, checking his gold watch. Signora Grazia wanted the first meeting to occur in neutral territory, with legal counsel present. He should arrive within the hour. My stomach dropped. Today? Now? But I haven't prepared? Ferretti's smile was knowing. Perhaps that's for the best. Authenticity, Signorina. That's what will sell this. The next 45 minutes passed in a blur of paperwork and increasingly panicked thoughts. What would I say? How should I act? The photograph Grazia had shown me flashed through my mind, those intense eyes, that commanding presence. In person, he would probably be even more intimidating. When the office door finally opened, I nearly knocked over my water glass. Giovanni, thank you for coming. Ferretti rose, extending his hand. The man who entered made the spacious office feel suddenly, claustrophobically small. In person, Giovanni Montebello was devastating. Tall, easily 6'3", with shoulders that strained the fine Italian wool of his navy suit. His dark hair was slightly longer than in the photograph, curling just slightly at his collar, and his eyes, Dio mio, those eyes. They swept the room with predatory awareness before landing on me. I stood automatically, my chair scraping loudly in the sudden silence. For a moment, we simply stared at each other. His expression was unreadable, but I saw his pupils dilate fractionally, saw the way his jaw tightened. Ginevra Romano, Ferretti interjected, using my formal name. This is Giovanni Montebello. Gabriella, I corrected automatically, then flushed. I mean, everyone calls me Gabriella, or Ella, not Ginevra. That's too... I was babbling. Stop talking, Ella. Giovanni's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Gabriella, My name in his deep voice, touched with that slight Sicilian accent, made heat pool low in my stomach. My mother's new project. It wasn't a question. I lifted my chin, stung by being dismissed as a project. I prefer to think of myself as an independent contractor, Signor Montebello. His eyebrow arched. Is that what we're calling it? Perhaps we should all sit, Ferretti suggested, though his tone made it clear it wasn't really a suggestion. Giovanni moved with leonine grace to the chair beside mine, close enough that I caught his scent, something expensive and masculine with notes of sandalwood and danger. He didn't look at me as he sat, his attention fixed on Ferretti. My mother seems to believe I need rescuing from my own betrothal, he said, his voice cold. I assume that's why we're here? Your mother believes, Ferretti replied carefully, that both you and Signorina Romano might benefit from a mutually advantageous arrangement. How delicate. Giovanni's tone was scathing. He finally turned to face me fully, and the intensity of his gaze made my breath catch. Did she tell you what she's asking you to do, Signorina? The world you'd be entering, however temporarily? She mentioned it would involve pretending to be engaged to you, I said, proud that my voice didn't shake. To help you avoid an unwanted marriage. Pretending. He leaned back, crossing one leg over the other in a gesture of casual power. You understand that the Santoro family won't simply accept this? That there will be scrutiny, questions, possibly threats? Threats. The word hung in the air between us. Your mother assured me I would be protected. Did she? It wasn't a question. His eyes narrowed. Tell me, Gabriella Romano, what makes you think you can convincingly pretend to be in love with a man like me? The challenge in his voice ignited something reckless in me. Maybe it was nerves, or the way he'd dismissed me from the moment he walked in. But suddenly I was done being intimidated. What makes you think, I countered, matching his tone, that you could convincingly pretend to be in love with me? Surprise flickered across his face, followed by something that might have been respect. Ferretti coughed, poorly disguising a laugh. She has spirit, Giovanni murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Interesting. The contract is quite specific, Ferretti cut in, pushing forward. Public appearances as an engaged couple, certain social obligations, but nothing beyond what would be considered appropriate for a betrothal period. Nothing beyond appropriate, Giovanni echoed, his eyes never leaving mine. And what do you consider appropriate, Signorina? If we're to convince my mother's social circle, let alone the Santoros, that this is real, we'll need to be convincing. Heat crept up my neck. I understand that public displays of affection might be necessary. Might be? His voice dropped lower, intimate despite Ferretti's presence. If I take your hand at dinner, will you flinch? If I put my arm around you at the opera, will you stiffen? If I kiss you goodnight where cameras can see, will you look like you're being attacked? I thought of the photograph, of those intense eyes and commanding presence, and knew with absolute certainty that if Giovanni Montebello kissed me, even for show, flinching would be the last thing I'd do. I'm a better actress than you think, I said quietly. Prove it. The command was soft but unmistakable. Before I could process what was happening, Giovanni stood and extended his hand. Not an offer, a demand. I rose on shaking legs and placed my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine, warm and calloused in unexpected places, a working man's hand hidden beneath expensive tailoring. Ferretti, excuse us a moment. Giovanni's voice brooked no argument. Giovanni, I don't think, the lawyer began. A moment. He led me to the far side of the office, near the tall windows overlooking Via dei Servi. Florence spread below us, beautiful and oblivious. When we were out of Ferretti's earshot, Giovanni released my hand, but moved close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. You're nervous, he observed. I'd be an idiot not to be. His lips twitched. True, but nervous won't sell this. If you can't handle being near me without trembling, we might as well end this now. I'm not trembling, I lied. No? He raised his hand slowly, giving me time to pull away, and cupped my face. His palm was warm against my cheek, his thumb tracing my jawline with devastating gentleness. Your pulse is racing. That doesn't mean I'm afraid, I breathed. His eyes darkened. What does it mean? This was dangerous territory. We were supposed to be faking an engagement, not whatever this was. But with Giovanni's hand on my face and his body close enough to feel his heat, I found myself being honest. It means I'm not immune to you, Signor Montebello, but I can handle it. Giovanni. His voice was rough. If we're doing this, you call me Giovanni, and I call you Ella. Practice. Ella, I whispered. Good. Again. Ella. Better. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, and my knees nearly buckled. Now tell me you can do this. Tell me you can stand beside me at charity galas and family dinners and convince everyone in Sicily that you're desperately in love with me. I should have been intimidated. Should have run screaming from this impossible situation. Instead, I pressed my hand over his where it still cupped my face and looked directly into those dangerous eyes. I can do this, Giovanni. The question is, can you? For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then Giovanni's expression shifted into something that might have been a genuine smile, transforming his severe features into something breathtaking. Perhaps my mother chose better than I thought, he murmured. Then louder. Ferretti, prepare the papers. Signorina Romano and I have an understanding. Part 3. The Introduction. The Montebello estate sprawled across the Tuscan hillside like something from a Renaissance painting. Honey-colored stone, terracotta roofs, gardens that probably required a staff of dozens to maintain. As Giovanni's car wound up the private drive, my courage began to falter. Second thoughts? Giovanni asked, his eyes on the road but his attention clearly on me. 100 thoughts, more like, I admitted. Your home is intimidating. It's my mother's home. I have an apartment in Florence. He glanced at me briefly. You'll stay in the guest wing here until we make the announcement. Mother wants to ensure you're properly prepared. Properly prepared. As if I were a debutante being launched into society rather than a florist playing pretend. The car pulled into a circular courtyard where a fountain burbled cheerfully, mocking my anxiety. Before I could reach for my door handle, Giovanni was there, opening it with fluid grace and extending his hand. Remember, he murmured as I stepped out. You're supposedly in love with me. Try to look less terrified. I'm not terrified of you, I said, taking his hand. I'm terrified of your mother. His laugh was unexpected and genuine. Smart woman. Grazia Montebello waited on the broad stone steps, elegant in cream silk and pearls. Behind her stood an older man in butler's attire and 2 younger women I assumed were household staff. Gabriella, benvenuta. Grazia descended the steps with arms outstretched. I'm so glad you've agreed to help us. The warmth in her embrace felt genuine, which only made me more suspicious. What game was she really playing? Thank you for your hospitality, signora. Grazia, please. We're going to be family after all, even if only temporarily. She pulled back, examining me with those shrewd eyes. We have much to do, and little time to do it. The announcement is in 3 days. 3 days to transform into someone worthy of being a Montebello's fiancé. Mamma, don't terrify her, Giovanni said, though his tone held affection. Gabriella has already proven she's brave enough to face down both you and me. Grazia's eyes sharpened with interest. Has she? Good. You need someone with spine, figlio mio. She linked her arm through mine. Come, Cara. Let me show you to your rooms, and then we'll discuss the arrangements. The guest wing was more luxurious than my entire apartment. Silk curtains, antique furniture, a bed large enough to sleep 4. French doors opened onto a private terrace overlooking the gardens, where late afternoon sun painted everything golden. I've taken the liberty of arranging for a stylist and seamstress to visit tomorrow, Grazia said, watching me take in the space. You'll need appropriate clothing for the announcement party and the events that follow. I can't possibly accept. You can, and you will. Her voice firmed. Gabriella, if this is to work, you must look the part. A Montebello's fiancé doesn't wear. I apologize, but your current wardrobe won't suffice. Heat flooded my cheeks. I knew my clothes were simple, but hearing it stated so bluntly stung. Mama. Giovanni's voice cut through the tension. I hadn't heard him enter. Enough. Gabriella understands what's required. You don't need to make her feel inadequate. Grazia had the grace to look abashed. You're right. Forgive me, Cara. I'm just anxious for this to succeed. Why? I asked bluntly. Why is this so important to you? It's more than just breaking Giovanni's betrothal, isn't it? Mother and son exchanged a look that spoke of conversations I wasn't privy to. The Santoros, Grazia said finally, are not good people. Lorenzo Santoro believes that once his daughter marries Giovanni, he'll have access to our family's business interests. He's wrong, but he'll cause significant problems trying. If Giovanni can break the engagement with his honor intact, it saves face for everyone. Except it won't, Giovanni said, moving to stand beside his mother. Lorenzo will be furious regardless. You both need to understand that. Will he be dangerous? I asked. To you? To your mother? Giovanni's expression hardened. To any of us. Including you, once the announcement is made. This isn't a game, Ella. The families take betrothals seriously. Breaking one, even for love, has consequences. The weight of what I'd agreed to settled over me like a shroud. This wasn't just pretend, wasn't just playing dress-up and attending parties. There were real stakes, real dangers. Perhaps I should show you the gardens before dinner, Grazia suggested, clearly reading my panic. The evening light is particularly beautiful this time of year. I nodded mutely, grateful for the escape. The gardens were spectacular, roses in every color, jasmine climbing ancient stone walls, lavender that perfumed the air. Grazia walked beside me in companionable silence for several minutes before speaking. I know this must seem overwhelming. Crazy even. It is crazy, I agreed. But I signed a contract, which can be voided if you've changed your mind. She stopped beside a fountain where water trickled over stone. I won't hold you to an agreement made under pressure, Gabriella. If you want out, say so now. I studied her face, looking for manipulation, for the angle, but I saw only genuine concern, and beneath it, desperate hope. Tell me the truth, I said quietly. What aren't you telling me? What's the real reason you're doing this? Grazia was silent for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, Giovanni was engaged once before, to a woman named Francesca. He loved her, truly loved her, and she died because of who we are, what we do. Since then, he's been closed off, going through the motions of life, but not really living. When his father arranged the Santoro match, Giovanni didn't even protest. He didn't care enough to fight. And you think a fake fiancé will change that? I asked, confused. I think, Grazia said carefully, that I saw the way he looked at you in Ferretti's office, the way you looked at each other. And for the first time in 3 years, I saw my son actually see someone, not as an obligation or a business arrangement, but as a person, a woman. My heart stuttered. Signora, Grazia, this is just an arrangement. We barely know each other. I know, But sometimes knowing isn't what matters. Sometimes it's feeling. She smiled sadly. I'm not asking you to fall in love with my son, Kara. I'm just asking you to help me wake him up. Remind him that feeling something, even something fake, is better than feeling nothing at all. Before I could respond, a voice called from the terrace. Mama, Gabriella, dinner is ready. Giovanni stood silhouetted against the setting sun, and even from a distance, I felt the pull of him. Grazia was right about one thing. I felt something when I looked at him. Something dangerous and thrilling and completely inappropriate for a business arrangement. We're coming, Grazia called back. Then quieter to me. Just give it a chance, Gabriella. That's all I ask. Dinner was served in a formal dining room that could have seated 20, but held only the 3 of us. Crystal glittered under chandelier light, and the meal was course after course of culinary perfection that I could barely taste through my nerves. Giovanni had changed into more casual attire. Dark slacks and a white dress shirt with the top buttons undone. Sleeves rolled to reveal forearms that shouldn't have been as distracting as they were. He seemed more relaxed here, at his family table, the severe mask he wore in Ferretti's office softening. So, Gabriella, he said, swirling wine in his glass, my mother has spent the afternoon grilling you about your suitability. It's only fair I do the same. Giovanni, Grazia chided. No, it's all right, I said. What would you like to know? Everything. If we're to convince anyone this is real, I need to know you. Start with why you became a florist. The question was so unexpected, so normal, that I relaxed fractionally. My grandmother had a flower shop. I spent every summer there as a child, learning which flowers meant what, how to arrange them, how to make something beautiful from simple stems and petals. When she died, she left me the shop. It's small, barely profitable most months, but it's mine. Does that sound silly? No. Giovanni's gaze was intense. It sounds like you love what you do. That's rare. And you? I challenged. Do you love what you do? His smile was dark. I do what's necessary. Not always the same thing. Giovanni manages several of the family's business interests. Grazia interjected smoothly. Import, export, real estate, vineyards. And probably several things she wasn't mentioning, if the rumors about the Montebello family were true. We'll need to create a story, Giovanni continued. How we met, fell in love. It needs to be believable, but simple enough to remember under pressure. The wedding, I suggested. We could say we met at the Benedetti wedding. I did the flowers, you were a guest. We talked. You asked me to dinner. Too prosaic, Grazia said. It needs drama. Romance. The flowers? Giovanni said suddenly. You created a special arrangement for someone close to me. Let's say my grandmother's memorial service. I was struck by the beauty and sensitivity of your work. I sought you out to thank you personally. We had coffee. One coffee became 2, became dinner, became inevitable. The way he said inevitable made heat pool low in my belly. That's good, Grazia approved. It explains why no one knew about the relationship. It was new, private. When did the engagement happen? Last week, Giovanni decided. I couldn't wait, couldn't risk losing her. His eyes found mine across the table. I've learned not to waste time when I find something worth keeping. We were acting, I reminded myself. This was all performance, but the intensity in Giovanni's voice made it feel dangerously real. We'll need to practice, he continued. The way couples touch, look at each other. It has to be natural, instinctive. Practice, my voice came out higher than intended. Practice, he confirmed, something predatory in his smile. After all, amore mio, the Santoros will be watching for any sign this is fake. We can't afford mistakes. Amore mio, my love. The casual endearment shouldn't have affected me. This was all pretend. So why did my heart race when he said it? Part 4, the rehearsal. The next 2 days passed in a whirlwind of preparation. Stylists descended on the estate like a designer army, measuring me for gowns I couldn't have afforded in 10 lifetimes. Grazia's etiquette coach drilled me on proper forms of address, which fork to use, how to exit a car gracefully in heels. My head spun with information about the families that ruled Sicilian society, who was allied with whom, which names never to mention in whose presence, the delicate dance of Italian power. But it was the evenings with Giovanni that truly undid me. "You're too stiff," he said on the second night, as we stood in the estate's library. "When I put my arm around you, you freeze. Lorenzo Santoro will notice." "I can't help it," I admitted. "I'm not used to this." "This?" His hand settled at my waist, warm even through the silk of my new dress. "Being touched. Not like this." I flushed. "I mean, I've had boyfriends, but you're different. You're intense." "Intense." He tested the word, his lips quirking. "Is that good or bad?" "I haven't decided yet." His laugh was low, intimate. "Fair enough. Come here." He guided me closer until we stood nearly chest to chest. I could feel his heart beating. Or was that mine? His hand slid up my back in a slow caress that had nothing to do with practice, and everything to do with the electricity crackling between us. "Better," he murmured. "Now look at me." I tilted my head back. This close, I could see flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could count the individual lashes that any woman would envy. "When we're in public," Giovanni continued, his voice dropping to that dangerous register that made my knees weak. "I need you to look at me like you're in love, like I'm the only man in the room. Can you do that?" Could I? When looking at him already made me forget to breathe? "Show me," I whispered. "Show me how you'll look at me." His expression shifted, the playful mask falling away to reveal something raw beneath. His hand came up to cup my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone with devastating gentleness. "Like this," he said softly, "like you're precious. Like I'd burn the world down before letting anyone hurt you." It was acting. I knew it was acting. But the way he looked at me made it feel terrifyingly real. "And when you touch me?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "Like this." His fingers slid into my hair, tangling in the dark curls I'd spent an hour taming, the pins scattered as he loosened the updo Grazia's stylist had created. "Like I have every right to touch you. Like you're mine." I should have protested. Should have reminded him this was just pretend, just business. Instead, I heard myself ask, "And when you kiss me?" His pupils dilated, his hand tightening in my hair. "We should practice that too. For authenticity." "For authenticity," I echoed, breathless. Giovanni lowered his head slowly, giving me every opportunity to pull away. I didn't. When his lips brushed mine, feather-light and questioning, I gasped. He took advantage, deepening the kiss until I forgot where I ended and he began. His free arm came around my waist, pulling me flush against him as he claimed my mouth with a thoroughness that left me dizzy. This wasn't practice. This was something else entirely. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Giovanni rested his forehead against mine. "Dio santo, Ella," he breathed. "We're going to be very convincing." Before I could respond, a deliberate cough from the doorway made us spring apart. Grazia stood there, one eyebrow arched, amusement dancing in her eyes. "I see the rehearsals are going well," she observed dryly. "We were just," I began. "Practicing," Giovanni finished smoothly, though his flushed cheeks betrayed him. "For tomorrow night." Grazia's smile was knowing. "Well, Don't practice too much, Kari. You'll spoil the surprise. She glanced at her watch. Gabriella, the stylist is waiting to do your final fitting. Giovanni, your cousin Matteo called. Something about the shipment from Naples. The moment shattered. Giovanni's expression shifted back to the severe mask I'd first seen in Ferretti's office. I'll call him back. He looked at me, something unreadable in his eyes. Tomorrow night, then. You'll do beautifully, Ella. Just remember, you're mine and I'm yours. Make them believe it. After he left, Grazia linked her arm through mine. Walk with me to the fitting room, Cara. We should talk. If you're going to warn me about your son, I'm going to thank you, she interrupted. That kiss, that wasn't acting. Not entirely. And I haven't seen Giovanni look at anyone like that since Francesca died. You said this was temporary, I reminded her, panic fluttering in my chest. A business arrangement. It is. We stopped outside the fitting room door. But life has a way of surprising us, doesn't it? Just be careful with each other, Gabriella. You're both more fragile than you appear. The fitting took hours. The gown Grazia had commissioned for the announcement party was a masterpiece. Midnight blue silk that hugged my curves before falling in a waterfall of fabric. A neckline that dipped low enough to be daring without being inappropriate. And a back that plunged nearly to my waist. When I saw myself in the mirror, I barely recognized the sophisticated woman staring back. Giovanni will lose his mind, the stylist announced with satisfaction. You're perfetta. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood on my terrace in a borrowed silk robe, watching moonlight paint the garden silver. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow the lie would become public, and there would be no going back. Couldn't sleep either. Giovanni's voice came from the terrace next to mine, separated by a low stone balustrade. Too many thoughts, I admitted. He vaulted over the balustrade with easy grace, landing beside me. In the moonlight, wearing only sleep pants and a white t-shirt, he looked younger, less severe. Second thoughts? More like thousand thoughts. I wrapped my arms around myself. Giovanni, what if we can't pull this off? What if the Santoros see through us immediately? They won't. His hand found mine in the darkness. Ella, listen to me. Tomorrow night, when we walk into that ballroom together, all you have to do is be yourself. Be the woman who challenged me in Ferretti's office. The woman who kissed me back in the library even though it terrified her. That's all I need. What about what you need? I asked, turning to face him. Grazia told me about Francesca, about what happened. His jaw tightened. My mother talks too much. She loves you. She wants you to be happy. Happiness is a luxury I can't afford, he said flatly. Or won't afford. I squeezed his hand. Giovanni, I know this is fake. I know in 6 weeks I'll go back to my shop and you'll go back to your life. But maybe we could both stop pretending that kiss in the library was just acting. The silence stretched between us, heavy with possibility. If I stop pretending, Giovanni said finally, his voice rough, if I let myself want you the way I want to. Ella, I don't do things halfway. If we cross that line, there's no going back. Who says I want to go back? His sharp intake of breath was my only warning before he kissed me again. This time there was no hesitation, no pretense of practice. His hands cupped my face as his mouth claimed mine with a hunger that matched my own. I tangled my fingers in his hair, pulling him closer, demanding more. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. 6 weeks, he whispered. That's all we have. Then you go back to your life, and I go back to mine. Then let's make them count, I breathed. Tomorrow we would lie to the world. But tonight, in the moonlight, We were finally being honest with each other. The ballroom of the Hotel Villa Medici glittered like something from a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers, gilded mirrors, and hundreds of Sicily's elite gathered to witness what they believed would be the announcement of Giovanni Montebello's engagement to Vittoria Santoro. They were half right. "Ready?" Giovanni asked, his hand warm at the small of my back as we waited in the antechamber. I looked up at him, devastating in a midnight blue suit that matched my gown, his dark hair styled back to reveal the aristocratic lines of his face. In the past 3 days, I'd learned the geography of that face intimately. The tiny scar above his left eyebrow, the way his jaw tightened when he was thinking, the exact shade his eyes turned when he wanted to kiss me. "As I'll ever be," I said, adjusting the diamond necklace Grazia had insisted I wear, "though I might throw up on your very expensive shoes." His laugh was low and genuine. "If you do, I promise to be very understanding, amore mio." The endearment no longer felt like pretend. "Places," Grazia hissed, appearing at my elbow in a stunning silver gown. "They're about to announce you. Remember, Gabriella, you're in love. This is the happiest night of your life. Make them believe it." The orchestra swelled. Through the doors, I could see the crowd turn expectantly. Somewhere in that sea of designer gowns and expensive suits were the Santoros, expecting to hear their daughter's name announced as the future Signora Montebello. "Breathe," Giovanni murmured in my ear. His hand slid from my back to intertwine with my fingers. "Just follow my lead." The doors opened. A hush fell over the crowd as we stepped into the light. The walk to the raised platform where Signor Montebello, Giovanni's father, a silver-haired man with the same intense eyes, waited felt like walking through water. I was hyper-aware of every eye on us, every whisper that rippled through the crowd. Then I saw them. Lorenzo Santoro and his daughter Vittoria, standing near the front. Lorenzo's face was thunderous, while Vittoria looked confused, her eyes darting between Giovanni and me with growing understanding and fury. We reached the platform. Giovanni's father stepped forward, his expression carefully neutral, though I caught a flash of surprise when he looked at me. "Friends, family," he began, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent ballroom. "Thank you for joining us tonight to celebrate a joyous occasion. As many of you know, arrangements were made years ago between our family and the Santoros. However," he paused, letting the suspense build. "Matters of the heart cannot be dictated by business agreements. My son Giovanni has found his match, his equal, his amore. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce his engagement to Signorina Gabriella Romano of Florence." The room erupted, gasps of shock, excited whispers, and one very loud crash as Vittoria Santoro apparently threw something. Through it all, Giovanni kept his eyes on me, his hand tightening around mine. "Look at me," he said softly, barely audible over the chaos. "Only me." I did. In that moment, it was easy to forget the hundreds of watching eyes, the scandal we'd just unleashed, the fury on Lorenzo Santoro's face. There was only Giovanni, looking at me like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking his entire life. "Now kiss her, Figlio," Giovanni's father said, loud enough to carry. "Show everyone what love looks like." Giovanni's hand came up to cup my face, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. "Ready to seal the deal, amore mio?" "Always," I breathed. The kiss was meant for show, a public claiming, a declaration. But when his lips met mine, tender and fierce and achingly real, I forgot we were performing. His arms came around me, one hand tangling in my carefully styled hair as he deepened the kiss. I rose on my toes, my hands fisting in his lapels, kissing him back with everything I had. When we finally broke apart, the ballroom exploded in applause. Well, most of it. The Santoro corner remained ominously silent. "Well done," Giovanni murmured against my lips, then louder, turning us to face the crowd. "Thank you all for sharing this moment with us. Now please, eat, drink, celebrate with us." The orchestra resumed, and couples flooded the dance floor. But before Giovanni and I could step down from the platform, a voice cut through the festivities. A touching performance. Lorenzo Santoro shouldered his way through the crowd, his daughter trailing behind. Up close, he was shorter than Giovanni, but radiated a different kind of power, the coiled violence of a man used to getting his way through intimidation. "Though I wonder how long you've been planning this betrayal, Giovanni." "Not a betrayal," Giovanni replied coolly, his arm still around my waist. "Matters of the heart," as my father said. "The heart," Lorenzo scoffed. "And who is this nobody you've supposedly lost your heart to? A florist?" He said it like a curse. "You expect me to believe you've thrown away an alliance decades in the making for a shop girl?" I felt Giovanni tense, felt the barely leashed fury in the arm around me. Before he could respond with something that would escalate the situation, I stepped forward. "Signor Santoro," I said, proud that my voice didn't shake. "I understand you're disappointed, but I assure you Giovanni and I—" "You assure me?" Lorenzo's laugh was cruel. "Signorina Romano, you have no idea what world you've just entered. Giovanni's affections are fleeting. Ask Francesca. Oh, wait. You can't. She's dead." The viciousness of it took my breath away. Giovanni went rigid beside me, his face draining of color. "Enough." Grazia appeared at my other side, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Lorenzo, you will not speak to my future daughter-in-law that way. This engagement is real, it's happening, and nothing you say will change that." "We'll see," Lorenzo said softly, dangerously. His eyes found mine. "Signorina, I hope you survive your association with the Montebello family better than the last woman who held Giovanni's heart." He turned and stalked away, Vittoria hurrying after him. The crowd that had gathered began to disperse, clearly uncomfortable with the confrontation. "Dio santo," Giovanni breathed. "I'm going to kill him." "You're going to do no such thing," Grazia snapped. "You're going to dance with your fiancé, smile, and show everyone that Lorenzo's words didn't touch you." Giovanni looked down at me, concern replacing fury. "Ella, I'm sorry." "Don't." I took his hand, pulling him toward the dance floor. "Don't apologize for him being cruel. Just dance with me." As we moved together to the orchestra's waltz, the tension slowly bled from Giovanni's frame. His arms came around me, secure and protective, and I rested my head against his shoulder. "I didn't love her," he said suddenly, quietly. "Francesca, not the way everyone thinks. It was arranged, like Vittoria. But she was kind, and she didn't deserve what happened." "What did happen?" I asked carefully. "She got caught in crossfire, literally. A business dispute with a rival family. She was collateral damage." His arms tightened. "After that, I swore I'd never let anyone close enough to be used against me again. And yet here I am," I said softly. "And yet here you are." He pulled back enough to look at me. "Ella, this isn't fake anymore. You know that, right? Whatever this started as, whatever my mother intended, what I feel when I look at you, when I touch you, when I kiss you, that's real." My heart stuttered. "Giovanni, I know the agreement. 6 weeks, then you go back to your life. But I need you to know that for me, this stopped being pretend the moment you kissed me back in my mother's library. I should have been cautious, should have reminded him of the contract, the temporary nature of our arrangement. Instead, I said, it stopped being pretend for me then, too." His eyes darkened with desire and something deeper. "Ella, scusi. A young woman I didn't recognize approached us hesitantly. Signor Montebello? Signorina Romano? There's someone asking to speak with you. He says it's urgent. Giovanni's expression shuddered immediately. Who? He didn't give his name, signor. Just said to tell you it's about the Santoro matter. Giovanni exchanged a look with his father, who'd been watching from the edge of the dance floor. Signor Montebello nodded once. Stay here with my mother, Giovanni told me. I'll handle this. I'm coming with you, I said firmly. Ella, we're engaged, remember? Partners. Where you go, I go. Pride and frustration warred on his face. Stubborn woman. You should have thought of that before you fell for a florist. His laugh was surprised and genuine. Fair point. Come on, then. But you stay behind me, understand? The messenger led us through the crowd to a private salon off the main ballroom. Inside, a man I didn't recognize waited. Middle-aged, nondescript, the kind of person who blended into crowds. Signor Montebello, he said, nodding respectfully. I apologize for the intrusion. My employer asked me to deliver a message. Your employer being? Lorenzo Santoro. Giovanni's jaw tightened. Then deliver it and go. The man reached into his jacket. Giovanni tensed immediately and withdrew an envelope. Signor Santoro wishes you to understand that this insult to his family will not go unanswered. He's given you 24 hours to announce that tonight's engagement was a mistake, a moment of weakness. If you do so publicly, he's willing to overlook this. Indiscretion. And if I don't? Giovanni asked, though his tone made clear the answer. Then he'll be forced to take measures to protect his family's honor. The man's eyes slid to me. I'm told his daughter Vittoria is particularly interested in meeting Signorina Romano, without a Montebello escort. The threat was unmistakable. You tell Lorenzo, Giovanni said, his voice deadly calm, that if he or his daughter or anyone associated with him so much as looks at Gabriella wrong, I'll forget about family alliances and business relationships, and I'll remember instead why they call me Il Lupo, the wolf. The messenger paled. Clearly he'd heard the nickname and the reputation that came with it. I'll relay your message, signor. He practically fled the room. Once the door closed behind him, Giovanni turned to me. This changes things. How so? You're not safe. I thought the Santoros would bluster and complain, but ultimately accept the situation. I was wrong. He ran a hand through his hair, messing up the careful styling. Lorenzo is going to come after you, Ella. To punish me, to force my hand, to reclaim his family's honor. You need protection. I have protection. You. I can't be with you every second. He pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. I'm arranging for security. 2 men, 24/7. They'll shadow you everywhere. Giovanni, that's excessive. It's necessary. He looked up, and the fear in his eyes stopped my protest. Ella, I've already lost 1 woman to family politics. I will not lose you. Do you understand? I will burn this entire city down before I let Lorenzo Santoro touch you. The ferocity in his voice made me believe him. Okay, I said softly. Okay, whatever you think is necessary. He closed the distance between us, pulling me into his arms. I'm sorry. This isn't what you signed up for. No, I agreed, wrapping my arms around his waist. I signed up for a fake engagement and a paycheck. Instead, I got you. Is that good or bad? I thought about the past 3 days. The laughter, the stolen kisses, the way he looked at me like I was precious. The fear currently coursing through my veins was real, but so was the feeling in my chest when I looked at him. It's terrifying, I admitted, and wonderful, and completely insane. Welcome to my world, amore mio. He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. Now come on. We have a ballroom full of people waiting to see the happy couple. Let's give them a show worth remembering." The next 2 weeks existed in a strange bubble. Publicly, Giovanni and I were the perfect engaged couple. Dinners at exclusive restaurants where photographers just happened to be present, charity events where his hand never left my waist, family gatherings where I learned the intricate politics of the Montebello clan. Privately, the lines between our arrangement and reality blurred until I could no longer tell where the acting ended and truth began. True to his word, Giovanni assigned security. Marco and Luca became my constant shadows, 2 intimidating men in dark suits who made my flower shop customers nervous, but made me feel paradoxically safe. It was at the shop, 3 weeks into our engagement, when everything changed. I was arranging peonies for a wedding when the bell over the door chimed. I looked up, expecting Marco to announce another of Giovanni's surprise visits. Instead, I found Vittoria Santoro standing there, elegant in Valentino and radiating barely controlled fury. "Signorina Romano," she said, her voice honey over steel. "How quaint, playing florist while you wait to become a Montebello. Signorina Santoro." I set down my shears carefully, aware that Marco and Luca had both moved closer, hands inside their jackets. "This is unexpected." "Is it?" She smiled, cold and predatory. "Surely you knew I'd want to meet the woman who stole my fiancé." "He was never really yours," I said quietly. "It was an arrangement, not a love match." "And yours is?" She laughed. "Please, you're a nobody. A shop girl Giovanni is using to escape an obligation. Do you honestly think he loves you?" The question struck deeper than it should have. Because despite the kisses, the whispered endearments, the way he looked at me, we'd never actually said those words. Not when it wasn't for show. "What do you want, Vittoria?" "To warn you." She stepped closer. Marco tensed. "My father isn't a patient man. This little game you're playing with Giovanni, it ends. One way or another." "That sounds like a threat." "It's a fact." Her smile turned vicious. "How is your flower shop, by the way? Such a charming place. Would be a shame if something happened to it. A fire, perhaps. These old buildings are so flammable." Rage, white-hot and purifying, flooded through me. "Get out." "Or what? You'll call your fiancé?" "He can't protect you from everything, Gabriella. My father has reached Giovanni couldn't dream of, and he's decided you need to learn your place." I said get out. Make me, shop girl. What happened next was instinct. Years of defending myself in rough neighborhoods, of refusing to be cowed by bullies. My hand shot out, connecting with Vittoria's perfectly made-up face with a satisfying crack. She staggered back, shock replacing fury. "You hit me. You actually... Marco, Luca, did you see that? This woman assaulted me." "We saw Signorina Santoro threatening our employer," Marco said calmly, though I caught the approval in his eyes, "and Signorina Romano defending her property. Now leave before we call the police." Vittoria's eyes promised retribution. "You'll regret this, both of you." She turned and stormed out, the door slamming behind her. My hand started shaking the moment she was gone. Marco was immediately at my side. "Are you all right, Signorina?" "I just hit a Santoro," I said, half laughing, half panicking. "Giovanni is going to kill me." "Giovanni is going to be proud of you," a familiar voice said from the doorway. I spun to find him there, still in a business suit from whatever meeting he'd just left. The expression on his face was complex. Fury, pride, possessiveness, all warring for dominance. "You heard?" I asked weakly. Luca called me the moment she walked in. He crossed to me in 3 long strides, his hands framing my face. "Are you hurt? Did she touch you?" "I'm fine. I'm the one who hit her." Pride won the battle. His smile was fierce and admiring. "That's my girl. But Ella, you understand what this means? Lorenzo will escalate now. Not because you hit his daughter, though that probably didn't help, but because you stood up to her. He can't have that. I'm not going to cower, I said firmly. I'm not going to let her or her father intimidate me. I know. It's one of the things I love about you. The words came out casual, almost throwaway. Then his eyes widened fractionally as he realized what he'd said. The shop went very quiet. Even the flowers seemed to be holding their breath. What did you say? I whispered. Giovanni's hand slid down to my shoulders, his thumbs tracing my collarbones. I said it's one of the things I love about you. Your courage, your stubbornness, the way you make arrangements that are beautiful and wild and completely unique. He paused. The way you look at me like I'm more than my family name. The way you kissed me back that first time in the library, even though you were terrified. The way you fit perfectly in my arms. My heart was going to beat out of my chest. Giovanni, I love you, Ella. This stopped being an arrangement for me weeks ago. Probably before that, if I'm honest. And I know we said 6 weeks. I know the contract says you can walk away. But Christo, I don't want you to. I kissed him. Hard and desperate and full of all the feelings I'd been trying to deny. He made a sound of surprise, then pulled me closer, one hand tangling in my hair as he deepened the kiss. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, I said, I love you too. I think I have since you called me stubborn in Ferretti's office. And the contract can go to hell. I'm not going anywhere. His smile transformed his face. You mean that? Every word. Though your mother is going to be insufferable about this, she'll claim she planned it all along. She probably did, Giovanni admitted. My mother is terrifyingly prescient. He sobered. But Ella, loving me comes with complications. The Santoros, the family business, the life I lead. Are you sure? I'm sure, I interrupted. I'm terrified and completely out of my depth and probably insane, but I'm sure. He kissed me again, tender and claiming. Then we do this properly. No more pretending. I'm going to tell my father tonight that this engagement is real, that you're mine and I'm yours, and nothing Lorenzo Santoro can threaten will change that. What about the contract? The money? Keep the money, you earned it. His grin was wicked. Consider it hazard pay for putting up with me. A discreet cough reminded us we weren't alone. Marco and Luca stood by the door, trying and failing to hide their smiles. Boss, Marco said, we should probably get Signorina Romano somewhere more secure. If Vittoria reports what happened? She won't, Giovanni said confidently. It would require admitting she lost a confrontation to a shop girl. Her pride won't allow it. But Marco's right, Amore. We need to talk about your security. The Santoros know where you work, where you live. So I move in with you, I said, surprising myself with the boldness. Properly. Not as your fake fiancé, but as your real one. His eyes darkened with desire and possession. You're sure? It's a big step. I'm sure. I took his hand, lacing our fingers together. Besides, someone needs to make sure you actually eat vegetables instead of surviving on espresso and intimidation. His laugh was genuine and unguarded. Marry me. I blinked. What? Marry me. Not in 6 weeks when the contract expires. Now. This week. Before Lorenzo can make any more moves. Before anything else can go wrong. He dropped to one knee right there in my shop, among the peonies and roses, pulling a ring box from his pocket. I've been carrying this for a week, waiting for the right moment. But there is no right moment, Ella. There's just now. And us. And the fact that I love you more than I thought I could love anyone. The ring was stunning. An emerald-cut diamond flanked by smaller stones, elegant and timeless. When did you... The day after the announcement party. When I watched you charm my entire extended family while secretly terrified. When I realized I wanted to see you do that for the rest of my life. His voice softened. Marry me, Gabriella Romano. For real this time. Be my wife, my partner, my amore. Let me spend the rest of my life making you happy and keeping you safe and falling more in love with you every single day. Tears spilled down my cheeks. You're asking me to marry you in my flower shop while your bodyguards watch. Is that a problem? It's perfect. I pulled him to his feet and kissed him, tasting salt from my tears and joy in the future spreading before us. Yes. 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto my finger, a perfect fit, of course, and kissed me again. Behind us, Marco and Luca applauded. Finally, Marco said, we've been running a betting pool on when you'd make it official. I just won €300. Giovanni laughed, pulling me closer. You were betting on my love life? Everyone was, boss, even your mother. Of course she was. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Come on, amore mio. Let's go home and tell my parents they're getting a real daughter-in-law after all. What about Lorenzo? I asked. What about the Santoros? Let me worry about that. His voice hardened. He threatened you, threatened us. That ends now. The confrontation with the Santoros came 3 days later, at a formal dinner Giovanni's father arranged, neutral ground at one of Florence's oldest restaurants. The entire Montebello and Santoro families attended, along with several allied families serving as witnesses. I wore one of my new gowns, black silk that Grazia said made me look like a queen, and Giovanni's ring, now joined by a stunning diamond wedding band. We'd married 2 days earlier in a quiet ceremony at the estate chapel, with only family present. Grazia had cried. Giovanni's father had welcomed me officially into the family, and Giovanni had looked at me like I'd hung the stars. Now, facing Lorenzo Santoro across a table laden with crystal and fine china, I felt that same certainty. I belonged here. Beside Giovanni, facing whatever came together. So, Lorenzo said once the first course was served, the shopgirl is now a Montebello. Congratulations on your impulsive marriage. Thank you, I said smoothly. It was a beautiful ceremony. I'm sorry you couldn't attend. His smile was sharp. I'm sure it was lovely, though I wonder how long the marriage will last. Montebello men are known for their wandering eyes. Lorenzo, Giovanni's father warned. That's enough. Is it? Lorenzo's gaze fixed on Giovanni. You've made a fool of my daughter, broken a decades-old agreement, and married a nobody. Did you think there would be no consequences? I think, Giovanni said quietly, dangerously, that you're confused about who has power here. My family doesn't need your alliance, Lorenzo. We never did. That agreement benefited the Santoros far more than it benefited us. And now it's ended. Ended, Lorenzo repeated. You think you can just walk away? I think I already have. Giovanni's hand found mine on the table, our rings catching the candlelight. Gabriella is my wife. She's protected by every alliance the Montebello family has built over generations. Touch her, threaten her, even look at her wrong, and you'll discover exactly why people don't cross us. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Lorenzo's face flushed with fury. You're making a mistake, Giovanni. Choosing this girl over family alliances, over tradition. I'm choosing love, Giovanni interrupted. Something you clearly don't understand. This conversation is over. The betrothal is broken. Accept it or don't. But if you continue to threaten my wife, you'll force my hand. And you won't like the result. For a long moment, the two men stared at each other. Then Lorenzo threw his napkin on the table. Come, Vittoria. We're leaving. Papa, wait, Vittoria began. Now. They swept from the restaurant, taking their allies with them. The remaining families exchanged glances, then one by one rose to congratulate us, to welcome me officially into their circle. Later, as Giovanni and I stood on our apartment balcony overlooking Florence, the city lights spreading below us like fallen stars, I turned to him. Is it really over? With the Santoros? Probably not entirely. Lorenzo will sulk, maybe try some business maneuvers. But he won't come after you. Not now that we're married. Not now that you're truly a Montebello. He pulled me closer, his arms coming around me from behind. You're safe, amore mio. I promise. I leaned back against his chest, watching the city we'd call home. I never imagined this. 3 weeks ago, I was arranging flowers at a wedding, invisible. Now I'm married to the most dangerous man in Sicily. The most dangerous man who is completely devoted to you, he corrected, nuzzling into my neck. Who loves you more than anything? Who plans to spend the rest of his life making you happy? And if I get bored of being a Montebello, I teased. If I want to go back to being a simple florist? Then I'll buy you the biggest flower shop in Italy. His lips brushed my ear. Whatever you want, Ella. The world, if you ask for it. I don't want the world. I turned in his arms, looking up into those dark eyes that had first captivated me in a photograph. I just want you. This. Us. Then you have it. He kissed me, tender and claiming. Always and forever, amore mio. You have me. Below us, Florence glittered in the night. Above us, stars wheeled across the Tuscan sky. And between us, love, real, fierce, and completely unexpected, bloomed like the flowers in my shop, wild and beautiful and uniquely ours. We'd started with a lie, but we'd found truth. And that, I thought, as Giovanni lifted me into his arms and carried me toward our bedroom, was the greatest love story of all.